you guys help to make the motions. That's super helpful.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, this is Tom. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
I hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay, I'll be audio only for a few minutes. I'm just transitioning between places.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. So would everyone ask that you would please rise as we have the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Heavenly Father, during these challenging days, we pray for strength that while our residents remain physically isolated from one another, we remain in spiritual fellowship with a common vision and purpose of loving our neighbor. We remember the Apostle Paul in his first letter to the Corinthians tells us that if one member of a community suffers, every member suffers. And if one member rejoices, we rejoice together. So tonight we pray for those suffering from economic hardship due to the current pandemic. We pray for those who are lonely. Pray for those who are suffering from mental illness and those children who don't have a stable home environment. We realize that our communities will be what we make them on the other side of this, so we pray for strength and leadership to guide our cities through these uncertain times. While our communities are suffering, we will rejoice together. We pray for this in your heavenly name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. It's 5:30, April 20th, 2020, and I will call this meeting of the Fergus Falls City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Roofer. Thompson. Arneson.
Here.
Gustafson.
Here.
Hicks.
Here.
Fish.
Here.
Hagberg.
Here.
Kwame.
Here.
I'm just going to go back because I wasn't sure who had said that. I had Roofer.
Tom is here.
Okay. And Thompson.
Here.
We have a quorum. First item of business on the agenda this evening is the approval of the agenda, and I will call on our city administrator, Andrew Bremseth, to walk us through any additions or changes.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Members, good evening.
Just a few things. You got a new agenda sent out earlier this afternoon and also on the website. So if you're looking at it, you may have the most up-to-date, but just wanted to call out a few things. We added an item on the consent agenda, which is setting a public hearing for a tax abatement hearing on May 18th, 2020 at 5:30. And then under new business, we added a item as it relates to a tax rebate application for a new construction project that's forthcoming. So we'll talk about those in more detail as we get there.
Thank you, Andrew. With that, I would entertain a motion accepting the agenda as presented.
I'll offer that.
Thank you, Krista.
Second, Fish.
Thank you, Jim. Roll call, please.
Roofer,
Roofer says yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Arneson,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Fish,
Yes.
Hagberg,
Yes.
Kwame.
Yes.
That motion is approved. Under public hearings this evening, tonight we have a public hearing for the vacation request on Johanna and Lauren Drive right-of-way, together with the drainage and utility easements in lots 1 through 7, Block 4, all of Block 5, and lots 1 through 10, Block 6 of Aspen Plat. So with that, would someone like to briefly introduce this before we open the public hearing? Brian, are you on the line? Would you like to introduce this?
Yes, good evening, Your Honor, and members of the council. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, if you would speak, I'm not able to hear you real loud and clear, Brian. If you could speak up a little bit, I think we're having a little bit of trouble.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
yes.
better, Brian. Thank you.
This petition was presented in the last council meeting on April 20th. There's attached an exhibit along with a petition presented by Frontier Ventures LLC, who is the petitioner. Like I mentioned, we had set the public hearing for tonight. Notice of this hearing was mailed to the budding property owner, along with private utility companies too as well in regards to this. To date, I've heard one response from private utility company, just a general FYI about another project. Other than that, I did not receive any exceptions to this. So at this time, to continue this process, we'll be requesting we get a hold of a public hearing for this petition. So at this time, I'm requesting you open up the public hearing.
Thank you, Brian. And with that, I will do that. The public hearing is now open. We are not able to see you here at City Hall, so please, anyone, you should all be unmuted. If any member of the public wants to speak to this public hearing, you're free to do so at this time. Hearing no one, I will close the public hearing, and it's back to the council. I would look for a resolution.
I need a motion.
A motion, I'm sorry, directing the city attorney to draft an ordinance to facilitate this vacation. Someone like to offer?
I'll offer that, Your Honor.
Thank
This is
you.
Justin Arneson.
I'll second.
Thanks. Thank you, Krista. Any further discussion from the council? Roll call, please.
Roofer,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Arneson,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Fish,
Yes.
Hagberg,
Yes.
Kwame.
Yes.
That motion is approved. There you are. Now I see you guys. That motion is approved. And if we're going to skip real quick down to H1, because the city attorney has drafted that ordinance to facilitate that vacation that you just passed. So if someone would like to introduce, we can accomplish that this evening and have the first reading, I'm sorry.
I would introduce Fish.
Thank you, Jim. That has been introduced. There are no bids to award this evening. Under petitions and communications, we have a proclamation for Arbor Day that I will read briefly. In 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees are a renewable source of giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other products, and whereas trees, whenever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, now therefore I, Benjamin Shire, Mayor of the City of Fergus Falls, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 26th
And it
as,
actually should be the 24th.
that's the 24th, as Arbor Day in the city of Fergus Falls, Minnesota, and I urge all citizens to celebrate at a safe distance Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect the trees and woodlands. So, there you go. There you have it. Under the consent agenda, we have 9 items this evening. If there are any items that anyone would like to pull off and discuss individually, we will entertain them now.
I would like to pull off number 8.
All right. Mr. Fish would like to pull off.
And I would,
All right.
Fish.
Anthony?
and I'd like to pull off number 2, Hicks.
All right. Any others? Seeing no one, I would entertain a resolution approving the other 7 items.
I'll make
This is-
a motion.
Rufo, second.
Brenton. Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Tom. Any further discussion without that, roll call, please.
Roofer,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Arneson,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Fish,
Yes.
Hagberg,
Yes.
Kwame.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Item number 2 is a motion approving licenses. Anthony, did you have a question on one of the licenses?
Yeah, I just curious as to, do we have a limit of how many chickens we allow in a kind of an area? And a reminder, do the neighbors have to sign off, don't they? If I remember it correctly.
Yeah, all contiguous property owners have to sign off. That certain restrictions on where the coop has to be from, distance from the buildings, and then there's a limit of 4, is it
Up to 4 hens.
4 laying hens at any,
No roosters.
no roosters and 4 laying hens.
And then, Your Honor, council members, this is Andrew. We do have a limit of up to 20 licenses citywide as well. So it's, there is a limit to the number that we can give out. We're still under that number.
Right. Okay. With that, I will introduce a motion to accept the chicken license for Summit Avenue.
All the licenses, right? Is it, you're good?
Yep. Yes. Sorry. Yep.
All 3 of them. Thank you, Anthony. Someone like to second that?
I'll second that, Arneson.
Thank you, Justin. Roll call, please.
Roofer,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Arneson,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Fish,
Yes.
Hagberg,
Yes.
Kwame.
Yes.
That motion is approved. Item number 8 is a resolution allowing a partnership improvement project with Independent School District 544 to convert field number 5 at De Lagoon Park into a fast-pitch softball field and to authorize the school district to apply for a grant on behalf of the city to the Minnesota Twins organization for the field improvements. Jim, did you have a question or comment on that one?
Yeah, field number 5 is not the other baseball field, is it?
No, that
No.
one's called Farmers Field.
Farmers Field. Field 5 is the,
Okay, all right.
yeah, the other.
That's all the information I needed, and I will offer the motion or the resolution to accept number 8.
Thank you, Jim. Someone like to second that?
I will. This is Caroline.
Caroline. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Roofer,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Arneson,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Fish,
Yes.
Hagberg,
Yes.
Kwame.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. Under ordinances and resolutions tonight, we've already done number 1. Item number 2 is a second reading of ordinance number 99, 7th series adopted in city code. This has been before the council. It's had a first reading. If anyone has any questions, we will direct them to our city attorney. If not, I will call for the roll.
Roof,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Arneson,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Fish,
Yes.
Work products?
Egberg,
Yes.
Kwame,
Yes.
That ordinance is approved. Item number 3 is the second reading of ordinance 1, 8th series, amending zoning map for property located at 1110 West Douglas Avenue from RA to R2. Again, this has been before the council. It's had its first reading. If there's any questions, we will direct them to our city attorney. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Roofer,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Arneson,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Fish,
Yes.
Hegberg,
Yes.
Kwame,
Yes.
That ordinance is approved. Under presentation of claims tonight, we have claims in the amount of $627,482.52. And if there's any questions, we will direct them to our City Finance Director, Bill Sonmore. Hearing none, would someone like to offer a resolution?
Motion, we pay the bills.
Thank you, Jim. Resolution would be great. Thank you.
He's back.
Krista?
I'll second.
Thank you. Dynamic duo, paying bills. Roll call, please.
Roofer,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Arneson,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Fish,
Yes.
Hegberg,
Yes.
Kwame,
Yes.
Who's echoing?
That resolution is approved. There are no board, committee, or department reports this evening. Under reports from staff and administrative offices, I would call on our city engineer, Brian Yavaro, to give us an update on Otter County's Fir Avenue intersection study. Good evening, Brian.
This has been, if you recall,
Go.
the city.
Try that again, Brian. We
Fergus
just unmuted you. Good evening, Brian.
Well, thank you, Your Honor, and members. Included in your packet is a preliminary design I've been working with the county on in regards to the intersection of Fir Avenue and Union. If you recall, sometime a few weeks, months ago, perhaps, we received the final report for SRF Consulting that we engaged as a cooperative agreement with the county and the city to prepare some preliminary roundabout analysis for 3 intersections. What's included in your packet is the Fir Avenue, Union Avenue intersection. I'd like to note, when it came to that elaborate roundabout preliminary proposed conceptual and design, that was probably noted as the most significant in cost. So in the interim, looking at ways to improve accessibility and safety for this particular area, and I hope at a much cheaper price. Chuck Pry, who's also Otter County engineer, is also on the line. I invited him to help with any questions. But before you have 2 maps. The first one, including in your packet, shows existing conditions in this particular area. If you scroll down to the second page, pretty much shows preliminary design for what's proposed. I'd like to take a moment here to point out a few of the key features that we're looking at. Number 1, on Oak Street, the county would like to add addition of a turn lane. Oak Street is, as you pretty much are all aware, that leads to the Government Services Center for the county. Now, if you move farther to the east along Fir Avenue, pretty much majority of the work that we're looking at is next to, well, as the free right as Fir Avenue as you merge south on the Union Avenue. Now, what is proposed on here is just a few things. First and foremost is the addition of a turn lane for northbound Union traffic to where it meets Fur. Currently, as you know, cars approach that vehicle. It's a very skewed intersection, especially for westbound movements of vehicles on Fur Avenue. This condition right here, that when you're always looking at intersections, it's a pretty excessive knot in the neck to watch for oncoming traffic. So under this proposal, request is looking at to add an additional modification to that, and essentially make Union Avenue intersect Fur Avenue at a 90-degree angle. This, first and foremost, this is a good thing for driver safety and visibility. Also, as we still request to maintain
Not
traffic.
sure what that squeak is.
Pardon me? As we continue on, furthermore, southbound traffic, looking to do a slight modification, but maintain traffic for movements from Fur West to South Union. If you look at this conceptual drawing, it shows a few of the lanes that we're looking to modify. There's a few approaches as well. Wash and go, I'd like to point out, there's 2 additional accesses that we're proposing to remove and restore others as well and make improvements to those. We're not looking to restrict any access other than those 2 noted at Wash and Go. But like I mentioned, the county is here to discuss it. They're looking to do these improvements thus far on county costs. There will be some coordination with this effort. I would recommend, from the public hearing we had in the roundabouts, that we do contact some of these abutting residents too as well, so they have some awareness of this potential for this interim project, per se, until the roundabout funding is identified. So at this time, I'm just opening up and introducing this as preliminary. I wanted to get some thoughts from the city council, and if Mr. Grotti from the county would like to weigh in on what's presented here.
Thank you, Brian. Before we open up to questions, just to clarify, there's some background noise. Did you say you wanted to get input? I think the council would agree, make sure that the business community has ample time and opportunity, the businesses that are in that area to comment on this. Is that what you said? You kind of cut out there for a minute.
Yes, I would recommend that would be a step taken.
Certainly. Okay. And now we have it up on the screen. I think you all can see. So, council, did you have anyone on the council have any questions or comments for Brian? I know Chuck Grotti and Lee Rognus from the county are also on with us tonight. They can make some comments if they'd like to in a minute. But council, did you have any questions or comments for Brian?
I got a couple of questions, Your Honor.
Go ahead, Anthony.
What is the plan on Fur with the new sort of spur that comes off, and obviously as it enters Fur, are we going to have any form of control there for traffic that wishes to turn, obviously kind of westbound? And then are we still going to maintain the 4-way or the 3-way stop as it is on Union Fur that goes by Cases?
That is Brian. That is a very good question. Yes, on that spur where it intersects Fur Avenue, there would be a control, particularly a stop sign there. Also, at that intersection currently meets right now with that 3-way, the county is proposing to control it for north and southbound, and make it a 2-way stop there, essentially making west and eastbound traffic unobstructed.
So on the new junction on Fur, there'll be a stop sign obviously where Union meets Fur, but is there going to be stop signs on Fur itself to allow traffic to turn west?
If I believe the question, so could you repeat that, please? Just on.
I'm just concerned about traffic getting out of the new spur onto Fur. So is the traffic east or westbound on Fur at the new junction going to be stopped?
No, we're not looking to put that east-westbound stop, just a control on the south branch. The new spur where it comes and meets that intersection, that wouldn't be controlled, the stop sign.
So that's going to inhibit traffic off Union getting onto Fur then?
Yes, that would be one of the features of it, yes.
Do we think that's a positive feature?
From a site visibility standpoint, yes, but yes, for control, no, I would view that as much of a con. Basically inhibiting that movement. There could be moments of times too as well. If we're not controlling Union and Avenue or east or westbound, that will inhibit queuing when they come up to that current three-way. So that would help promote that situation. But yes, you would be controlled now. There's something we could do a little bit of a study for. I could talk with the county and everything and see if we could do a level of service analysis for that to answer that question better.
Go ahead, Anthony.
I think especially if you're going to take the four-way stop away, you're going to speed the traffic up on Fur. So it's going to make it harder for somebody to turn off that spur onto Fur.
Chuck, I have a question. Chuck, if you could unmute Chuck Grotti and Lee Rognes. If Chuck or Lee, either one of you have any comments, does the county currently have a plan of how, like the time frame as far as how the public might, like the businesses and the general public would have an opportunity to comment on this? Is that something that's been scheduled?
This is Chuck Roddy, Bartow County Engineer. We haven't scheduled anything yet. I guess we're going to run it past the City Council today on our Public Works Committee next a week from Tuesday. Our time frame is that we currently have a contract for this section of the highway, and we'd hope to get it incorporated into that work yet this spring. So we have sort of a short time frame, but we're hoping to do some public involvement there. To answer your question about the traffic, as part of the original roundabout study, they did look at peak AM and peak PM hours, and most of the traffic is going east and west. There is a fair amount coming from that south westerly curve, but both morning and evening, most of it's going east and west. So right now we're inhibiting traffic twice, by having them stop going east and west along Fur Avenue. So that's part of the reason we wanted to do away with three-way stop and do something in the interim before we can do the roundabout.
Thank you, Chuck. Scott, did you have a question? Do I see your hand up?
As I look at the westbound traffic on Fur Avenue, it seems like it'd be difficult to get into that apartment complex. And so for the other businesses in that curve, it looks like they've got decent access, but to get into that apartment complex looks a little difficult, especially if you're going westbound on Fur Avenue.
Yes, this is Brian. That was one of the things it brought up that we're looking at for discussion. I do that too as well. I think there's some potential for modification so we could potentially help that movement for westbound egress and ingress for that. It's a kind of a joint share between an apartment complex and Wash and Go.
This is Lee Rognes. I think Chuck has represented it well, what we're intending to do here. We originally had looked at some recommendations that went put turnabouts in the same area. And what we're looking at here is a shorter term relief on the pressure of that traffic, particularly traffic coming in from the west and needing to stay on Fur Avenue when they're taking traffic straight on from the south through the curve of Union. And this is kind of a slowdown for that, so that this traffic can keep on moving
and keep the traffic moving on Fur Avenue towards the east. I don't know, there's a lot of particularities in my comment there, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
Sure, thank you, Lee. So, question to Chuck and to Chuck Roddy and to Lee Rognus: would it make sense for the now that this proposal is that you have that we could get this to all the business owners that would be affected in that whatever area we identify, and then give them an opportunity to give comments at our May 4th city council meeting before we kind of the city gives the green light to move forward? Does that fit within your time frame? 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, I think that 2-week time frame would work. We'd, pretty much need to have a decision about that time. There's a little flexibility on what we actually do on that southwesterly side. We wouldn't necessarily need to do all that curb relocation on that southwesterly side and all those driveways. We could potentially just do some striping again as an interim measure. But that is part of the discussion, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds good. I know we've received a lot of comments from the business owners in that area regarding, plans and proposals for roundabouts and changes. So I just think I would like to see them have a copy of this plan and have the opportunity to comment on it before the city gives the okay, I guess. That's what I'd like to see. And if the council would agree, we could schedule that. We could put that on the agenda for May 4th.
Yeah, I think we can get that sent out tomorrow or the next day, so.
Sure. All right, anyone, the council, we okay with that? We'll put that on the agenda for May 4th and make sure the businesses have an opportunity to comment?
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Brian. Moving along, there is no old or unfinished business. Under new business, we have 2 items. First is a resolution approving refunds for 3 months of city-issued on-sale liquor license fees, and I'll let Andrew Bremseth take this one.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor, members. As you all know, back in the middle of March, Governor Walz issued Executive Order 20-04, which ordered the closure of bars, restaurants, and places of public accommodation as it relates to the COVID-19 crisis. With that closure, of course, local bars and restaurants had to make decisions if they wanted to close or continue to operate in a limited capacity. We've had both in Fergus Falls, some that have chosen to close until this passes, and others who have been doing their best to continue to offer services despite the limitations that are imposed on them. And in talking with some of our neighboring communities, there's been a movement to help out some of these businesses by offering a partial refund to their liquor license fees, as they were unable until just this past Friday to do anything as it relates to liquor licenses, with the exception of growlers at the breweries and also 3-2 off sale in businesses that were previously deemed essential. So we're recommending this evening that we do a 3-month refund on these liquor licenses to 21, there's 21 license holders. Not all of them would receive those. Like I mentioned, some have done the 3-2 sales, but we're recommending 3 months, as that's consistent with the 3-month loan exception we made here about a month ago. So that's really what it is. It's minimal cost to the city for those 3 months. It's $7,388 between all of those businesses listed. Just for reference, the city of Detroit Lakes approved a 4-month rebate. Becker County approved a 3-month rebate, and the city of Alexandria is currently looking at a 3-month rebate as well. So we're right there in that sweet spot. And again, it's a small way that we can help out the businesses that are impacted by these executive orders, and hopefully a small token on the city's behalf goes a long way for these folks. So that's where it's at. Again, this came as a result of our conversations with some of our colleagues and our neighbors in other communities, and staff is recommending that we move forward with the 3 months today. And if approved by the council, our goal is to get the checks out tomorrow or the day after very quickly. Want these folks to be able to put this money to work.
Thank you, Andrew. And just for the record, I did not participate in any of the discussions relating to this resolution. I won't be voting on it regardless of the outcome, so.
Yeah, Your Honor, council members, I also want to reiterate that I did not discuss this in any capacity with the mayor prior to putting it into the packet. So this was totally staff-driven based on conversations that we've had with other communities. And actually, we had an inquiry from one of our local license holders that's also operating in Detroit Lakes who had done it there. So that's really where the conversation started, is somebody that had the inquiry to us. And it is a very nice way for us to be able to make a small difference.
Thank you, Andrew. Is anyone on the council have questions or comments? Someone like to offer a resolution?
I'll offer that.
Thank you, Krista. Someone like to second that resolution?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Anthony. Any discussion?
Your Honor, I will abstain from that vote as I am finance officer at the Legion.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you. Any other comments before we call for the roll? Roll call, please.
Roofer,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Arneson,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Fish,
Abstain.
Hagberg,
Yes.
Kwame.
Yes.
That resolution is approved. The final item under new business is a motion for the council to entertain a tax rebate application after construction on the project has commenced. Prior to its previous discussion, I will call on Community Management Director Clara Beck to describe this issue for us.
Yeah.
Good evening, Clara.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council members, can you hear me? Is my microphone working?
Yes.
Yep.
We can hear you, Clara.
Great, thank you. All right. So the city has received a request for council to consider a motion to entertain a tax rebate application after construction on the project has already commenced. Currently, our program guidelines state that to be approved, the following parameters need to be met. Property needs to be located within Otter Tail County and zoned properly for the proposed residents. The applicant or property shall not have benefited from other local financial assistance, including tax increment financing, workforce housing, or small cities development program. Number 3, the project is built to all local, state, and federal regulations at the time the building or zoning permit is obtained. Number 4, property taxes are current and paid on time and in full. Failure to keep property taxes current shall result in revocation of the tax rebate for each year taxes are not current. And number 5, program approvals must be obtained prior to the start of construction of the new home. So when dealing with single-family homes, fulfilling guideline number 5, that program approvals must be obtained prior to the start of construction of the new home, is not a problem. However, the city has been approached by Donovan Rogness, a developer who plans to build townhomes whose units will be sold individually. Donovan has spoken with our city planner, Darren, and he plans to split the lots that he already has after a foundation has been laid and a surveyor has determined the dividing line between those units. So this means that the lots do not yet have all their county-issued parcel identification numbers in place, which is what we include in the city's rebate agreement language. City staff believes that the building and selling of townhomes like the ones that are planned by Mr. Rogness are within the spirit of the tax rebate program, and we are therefore requesting that the council consider making a motion tonight to entertain a tax rebate application after construction on the project has commenced in order to accommodate requests like Mr. Rogness's that involve townhome developments whose timeline may not fit the same timeline as a single-family build but remains within the spirit of the tax rebate program.
Thank you, Clara. Anyone on the council have questions for Clara on this?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
I think it would be nice to kind of see some documentation on exactly where it is and what the division's going to be. I think voting on something that's blind to the tune of $5,000 per unit without knowing what the maximum is going to be is not a fair place to put the council in. So I would suggest that we get more documentation and bring it back to the May agenda.
Go, Anthony, would you like to?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Andrew, would you like to?
Yeah,
speak
this
there?
is Andrew. Great point. There are 5 lots, and those will be split down the middle. The reason the split can't happen prior to the foundation being laid is just because you won't know where that true split needs to be with that common wall until that takes place. What we're asking today, I guess, is just, would you guys entertain this? We set the public hearing on the consent agenda for the May 18th council meeting. And if the council's not willing to entertain, bringing the applications forward, having the public hearing and bringing that level of detail, I guess that's what we'd like to know tonight, so the developer has direction. If the council's willing to hear this and will bring all of that information with the application at that public hearing on the 18th, then, this motion that Clara talked about, giving us that direction would be helpful, because in talking with the developer, some of that work is lined up to happen between now and May 18th. And, if the council's willing to entertain this, we don't want to delay that building and that project. But if the council, takes the stance that they won't entertain these things after projects have commenced in these circumstances, then the developer would have to make a decision as to whether or not to hold off on building, or that just simply it's not going to happen. So, we'll bring, if the council wants, we'll bring that information with the public hearing and the applications. We just would not have signed agreements prior to the work commencing in this case, and probably in all of the twin home type developments going forward.
Thank you, Andrew.
I think it would still be nice to have seen some documentation. I appreciate what you're saying, that obviously you can't identify the specific coordinates of kind of the lines, but this is $25,000 then that the city is being asked to forgive or forgo. So I think, it would be nice to just see the documentation, and, and I think it's not fair to come to the council with a request like this without really a whole lot of anything, just one line on the agenda, and it was late on the agenda too. So for me, I would vote that you would bring it to. I'd make a resolution that we bring it to the May meeting and then vote on it at that time.
I'll second that, but I also have a question. Do we know why it's come in late and why it didn't come in right away? Was it just because of the lines, or what's the reason for that?
Sure, so we'll call on City Attorney Ralph Nicobo's going to address that.
As of why it's coming in now, I don't have I can't comment on that, other than this is the application that we've received. He makes a similar application to the county, and evidently the county has streamlined their process, and they're not going through a public hearing, and they've already authorized the application. We have to have a public hearing on a rebate like this. You're not making a decision tonight on the rebate. All you're doing is delaying the decision till the May 18th hearing, and that's where you will be making a decision whether to grant the rebate or not. So all you're doing tonight is simply saying that our requirements require that the application be approved prior to starting your work. He wants to start work, and so all we're saying tonight is we will entertain your application at after we've had a public hearing on this, and after the council has been given sufficient information, then you'll be prepared to make a decision whether to grant the rebate or not. And that'll all occur at the May 18th meeting.
So Ralph, just so I can clarify, really, if it would be the developer actually taking the risk that if he just chooses to start the project, that we're saying it would entertain the rebate at the May 18th meeting, correct?
That's correct, and the developer's been forewarned that the council makes a decision, and it will make a decision following a public hearing. You may very well decide against the rebate, but you reserve that right. So all you're simply doing is simply saying that we will entertain your application following a public hearing and following being provided sufficient information for you to make a decision.
Thank you, Ralph. I would I would think that if the information on the 18th does follow the spirit of the law, as Clara said, that I would sure hope the council would go through with, as the county did, but that's up to the council on the 18th. But anyway, so there's a resolution and a second right now that we need to deal with. So the resolution was what was the resolution?
To table.
To table until the May 4th meeting.
And that's in essence what you're doing, is to table this to following the public hearing, but it's just to table it and to give you an opportunity to receive more information. So, I mean, that's consistent with what's being recommended.
The only difference, Your Honor, is the public hearing is scheduled for the 18th, and Anthony's resolution just said to table it till May 4th.
Oh, I think I would table it till May 18th.
But they would like to receive the information prior to the 18th.
Sure. That should not be a problem.
Okay, so there's a resolution. I think it's a motion, if that's all right. A motion to table this issue until the 18th. And there's a second by Caroline. Andrew, did you have a comment?
I do. The challenge with presenting this on the 4th, we need to know if we're going to have the public hearing on the 18th, because we have to meet the publishing requirements as it relates to the 10-day notice, and which is why we chose the 18th rather than the 4th. The other thing I would mention, it's more difficult to make those dates now that we have fewer days of publication to work with. And in spirit of all the other agreements, we presented the information at the same time as the public hearing and allowed individuals the opportunity to review that and to comment at the same time. I would hesitate to have the council make a decision on the application, which is not what we're asking you to do, prior to the public hearing, or you're in essence saying that, the public hearing isn't going to make a hill of beans. And so I would caution you against hearing the application and the information at one meeting and then, taking action on that before the public hearing, if that's the intent.
But by the motion being tabled until the 18th, we can take care of that. Yep.
But his motion, Your Honor, Councilmember Hicks's motion is still to table till May 4th, as I understand right now.
I think he changed it to
I would amend my motion to the 18th.
Caroline, are you
Thank
okay
you.
with that?
And then a second.
All right, good. Any further discussion?
I guess I'm wondering if we table it till the 18th, if we end up not being able to meet that publishing deadline, then, Andrew, is that what happens?
This is Rolf. That'll give us the opportunity to meet that deadline, or to meet the publication requirements. And in essence, it requires, I believe, at least 10 days notice.
That's right.
And, so then we back up from the days. So, I mean, we have to get something in the paper on or before May 8th.
All right, thank you, Ralph, for that. Any other questions before we call for the vote? Roll call, please.
Roofer,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Arneson,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Hicks,
Yes.
Fish. Fish,
He's muted.
Hagberg,
Read his lips.
Yes.
Kwame.
No.
That motion, I'm sorry, is approved. That's the last item on the agenda. The only announcement I have this evening is just to schedule the next council meeting, which is May 4th, 5:30 on Zoom. So we'll make sure we get you all the information to the public beforehand. And with that, we're adjourned.
Your Honor, can I just make one announcement? I don't know if people are aware that the Downtown City Council in Greater Fergus Falls have started an initiative called Project Twofold, which would be looking at supporting a combination of local businesses and students, and it would be a kind of a voucher package that would include a token towards a haircut, and a token towards a cinema ticket and bowling, and they're looking to raise enough for 469 students. And at this juncture in time, they're having very good response. And it's an initiative to try to obviously help the businesses that have been most affected by the orders that have shut restaurants and hairdressers and cinemas and bowling alleys. So if you go on either of their websites, you'll find a link and you can make a donation and buy a child a gift certificate.
Thanks, Anthony, and thanks to Greater Fergus Falls and the Downtown Council for that initiative. With that, thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Right.
Right.
Night.
Adios.